Inkstead, Minnesota Radio Network, back down to Fort Myers and doing broadcasts and coverage. With us once again, Cory Provus. We have a chance to talk to Cory every year. We enjoy doing that. Cory, good to see you. And, you got the Twins at least a 500 start this year.
Jim, good to see you, and good to see your outstanding award-winning photographer, Connie, also known as Ida, who's back down here as well. But, it's funny you bring up the spring training record. I'm one that believes that if you're 500 at the end of camp, that is about right. Because if you're too good, you win too many games down here, you think, okay, we got a perfect team, we got no flaws. Conversely, if you only win like 5 down here, well, then maybe you have more problems than you thought. So to me, 500 at the end of camp is about right.
Cory Provus, Twins broadcaster, with us. All right, so let's get to some meat and potatoes here. Twins made several additions in the offseason, and let's look at a few of them. Logan Morrison, the impact that he's going to have on the team and maybe the final roster.
Deepens the lineup without question. Adds a power bat to that lineup. He'll back up Joe at first base, and I would imagine he'll be the primary DH. So the Twins, led the second half in the American League in runs scored, and I think the lineup will have to be the driving force if they're going to contend and reach the playoffs again for the second straight year. Now, the impact this is going to have, it's going to take at-bats away from guys like Eduardo Escobar and Robbie Grossman, maybe Eddie Adrianza to an extent, but the one guy to me, Jim, is Kenny Vargas. I don't know how this roster coexists with both Morrison and Vargas. It wouldn't shock me at the end of camp if we find out. Remember, Kenny doesn't have an option remaining either if they make a move on Vargas here before camp ends.
Odorizzi, front-end starting pitcher for the Twins.
I wouldn't say front end. I think he's kind of a 3. I think right now, to me, he's a 3, but he could start opening day, and that is because of Irvin Santana's injury right now. Jose Barrios is 23 years old. If he would get the nod in opening day, to the youngest Twins opening day starter since Radke in 1996. At the same time, they want Jose Barrios to pitch in Puerto Rico. I think everybody does. And the way that it's lined up, if Barrios pitches opening day, he wouldn't go in that 2-game series against the Indians down in Puerto Rico. So it could be Odorizzi, it could be Kyle Gibson. There are 3 locks right now in this rotation. That's Barrios, Odorizzi, and Gibson. After that, there's competition taking place down here.
Fernando Rodney, supposed to be our closer this year, and he's got a good reputation.
He will be. He'll start the year as the closer. That's going to be his role to begin the year. It's not always going to be easy. Let's kind of let Twins fans know that. There are going to be times where he's going to walk a few guys and pitch himself into jams and ideally work himself out of it to grab that save and give the team a win. But he's going to get the chance, and he'll close. Addison Reed will kind of be the setup man for Rodney. And then it makes, I think, an interesting blend with veterans, with younger guys in the back end of the bullpen that we saw thrusted into these games late in the season. Buznitz and Hildenberger were rookies. Rogers, a second-year lefty. They're only getting better this year, and I think you combine those 3 with even Zach Duke, a left-hander the Twins signed. Between all that, mixing and matching, you have a nice bullpen of veterans and also some guys who are getting better.
Some nice additions certainly this year for the bullpen. I want to go back to that 4th starting pitcher, or potentially down the road 4th and 5th, because nobody's really stood out this spring so far.
My gut says they're going to start the year with 4 starters, and they only need that 5th starter twice in April. First one coming, I believe, the 13th. In a way, if I had to handicap it, I think Phil Hughes right now is not because of performance, just because of contract and because of the way that his contract and service time is set up compared to others. I think Phil has a leg up on Mejia and Duffy. Anibal Sanchez, to me, I think he makes the team, barring something happening down here, as kind of a long man, and maybe he gets that chance as the 5th starter. He pitches well. Now, results do matter for those 2 guys. I think Sanchez and Hughes, they have to pitch well enough to keep their name certainly contending for those spots on the roster. If they just drop it and they get shelled down here, then I think you have to kind of re-examine that whole conversation. But if I had to handicap it, I'd put Phil right now as the 4, and I think Duffy and Mejia may start the year down in the minor leagues.
Cory Provus is our guest from here at Fort Myers, Twins broadcaster. Everything solid with Santana being able to come back in May. Is that looking okay?
To my knowledge, yes. He was going to go to New York earlier, but that nasty storm, that nor'easter, impacted his travel, so he couldn't get there. But he was in New York this week getting that cast off his right hand. He has to really redo spring training all over again. So I think May is about right. At what point in May, early, mid, late, I think it's premature to say.
One last question before we end this segment. Granite or Grossman? That's going to be the fourth outfielder, I think. Who's going to get that spot?
I think Robbie. I think Robbie is a guy that doesn't have options. Granite does. Robbie will play the corners if need be. But I think Grossman right now is a leg up. Mitch Garver is going to probably make the team as the backup catcher. And he's in left field as we tape here today on this Saturday. So Garver's a guy that can, in an emergency, kind of fill into the outfield. Adrianza is going to make the team. He can play some left as well. So they have some guys that maybe are not full-time outfielders, but can fill in if need be for a day or two.
Stay with us. Another segment coming up with Cory Provus, Minnesota Twins broadcaster.